Your destination is on the left. Your destination is on the left.
Pleasure, Joe. Fantastic.
Here's Corin. All right. What do we got going on here? How you doing, Scott?
Good. Sweating in the back.
Schwitzing in the back. It's turned off, I think, already. The what? Oh, the keys are in the car. You can go grab them. We are here in Tyler, Texas. Let me move this away just in case it gets in the frame. You know, I'm still working out the kinks on my shooting style, but I wanted to introduce you to Hollywood Theaters. Should we go see a movie? Oh wait, we can't go see a movie. It's just a literal representation of my career right now. Closed until further notice. Anyway, here in Tyler, Texas, we are about to meet and greet with a gentleman who has signed up on Twitter. Don't know the name right offhand because I wasn't a part of arranging that one. I can't do it all. But we also won't be stopping to see a movie. We're way too busy for that. There's other things to do. And, oh, look. Hey, what's happening, brother?
How's it going?
That's so cool. He's here. That's so cool, man.
Just in time.
How are you? I'm Corin.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
Pleasure, Joe.
Pleasure.
Fantastic. Well, listen, this is Joe, and he's come out here to meet us. So I'm gonna shut down here for a second and get our little campsite set up so we can do an interview. See you in a sec. Love America tour. Recording. Just arrived at Tyler, Texas. Stepped in an ant pile. My feet are on fire right now. You got to bear witness to it.
Welcome to Tyler.
How are you, brother? I'm
Good.
Corin.
Joe Williamson. Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you too. Great to meet you too. So I take it Joe Williamson is the birth name you were given by your parents?
Absolutely.
Right on. Where were you born?
Youngstown, Ohio.
Youngstown, Ohio. Okay. What was that like? What was the year? I mean, I know some people are sensitive to their age.
72.
72. Okay, I'm a 71 baby. So Youngstown, Ohio. What was that like in the mid-late 70s?
Man, it's the typical 70s you possibly think of growing up. Didn't know I had it so good, right? Everybody played outside. Nobody really watched a lot of TV. I mean, you watched a little bit and then you went outside. You were afraid to even come back home because that means you had to stay inside, right? Which is why we, ended up drinking from everybody's water hose because it's either in or out. And we prefer it out.
Oh, I remember that growing, because I grew up in Arkansas and Georgia as well, but I remember sneaking into people's yards all the time, pinching water from the water hose.
You bet.
We used to go do these kind of like we called them pool dives, but we go just run into strangers' backyards and cannonball their pool and then run off.
That's amazing.
It was good times.
Oh, absolutely.
So what were your parents like when you were growing up?
To me, it was typical. Mom was the stay-at-home mom while we lived in Youngstown. My dad, worked at the GM plant, and then on the side did roofing. So he was a roofer all his life.
Well, those are both good trades. Mm-hmm. In the GM plant, was he working in the assembly line or doing?
Basically, from what I understand, he told me he ran a machine that made wire.
Okay.
Right.
So I mean that right there to me is I always talk about the fact that a lot of the colleges don't offer trade school type
Right.
stuff. You know, I mean, I feel like any college you go to should have a whole entire trade school academy to teach you anything that you could ever imagine wanting to do. You know, because those kind of trades, it's one thing to come out of college with a bachelor's in psychology you can't do anything with. It's another thing to come out of college knowing how to rewire an entire house as an electrician.
Yep. Always gonna find work.
So your dad was a hard worker then, 2 jobs.
Absolutely. So weekends, usually him roofing a house. Roofing was the family business. So my brother was in roofing, my cousin was in roofing, my grandfather was in roofing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
And-
But he did not want that for his children, so he did not teach us the trade.
Well, it's you know, I've done a little bit of construction myself. In my off time, I met a good buddy of mine now. His name's Steve McQueen, but he did all the work on my house when I moved to Spring, Texas, a little old farmhouse. And when we were on some construction sites, the roofing team, bro, I would just look at them up there, and I'm like, in Texas, in July, you should only be roofing after 6 p.m. This is
Correct.
crazy. Roofing should be done at nighttime. These poor guys, you know.
Absolutely.
So I don't blame him a bit for not wanting you to go follow that path. Now, as it sounds like your grandfather was a hard worker as well, and dad, and so that's just a family trait. Was that a good? I'm sure that he had to be away from the house a lot.
A lot.
But was it at least inspiring? If not, because a lot of times at that time it's hard to tell.
Mhm.
But when you get older, sometimes you look back and go, wow. You know, what was that like for you?
So-
the time period when he was working so much and
That's
he wasn't
interesting
around.
because we learn from watching our parents, right? So in my mind, what a guy should do is go to work and work long hours, which really isn't conducive to having a family life, right?
Right.
So it didn't serve me so well later on in life, but it did give me a strong work ethic, no doubt. I kind of took it to heart. I ended up working a lot of hours, and now that I look back, wish I hadn't. Right? That's time. The time you're never gonna get back with your kids that you missed.
Yeah.
And now that they're pretty much grown, I look back and I could look at photo albums like, wasn't there, right?
Yeah, I'm in a little bit of the same boat. I mean, with my job, with traveling all of the time, I mean, it was a constant in and out, like that, and missing really important moments that you just can never get back. And we were talking about it earlier while we were driving. Is this idea? My buddy said it when I was interviewing him yesterday. He was like, I work smart, not hard. And I'm like, I know it's like, in my industry it's tough because of the way it travels so much. But so when you were in high school age and all that, what was your high school years like?
So again, seeing the idea of I needed work, I typically worked, I would say I worked every day after school, about 5 hours a day. It was nothing for me to rack up 36 hours a week working and then do high school.
Wow.
Right. So again, didn't serve me real well because I didn't develop good study habits. So when it came time for college, again, dunk out of water.
Yeah. So during that time period, where were you living in high school?
Here we moved to Texas when I was 9.
Oh, okay.
So Dad decided that he didn't want to be in Ohio anymore. Too cold, hated snow.
I don't blame him.
Time to move.
Yeah.
So he spent a year coming down to Texas ahead of us, found a place for us to live, established himself, and then we moved down. Big life-changing experience, honestly, going from Ohio to Texas.
Right.
Funny thing was, the whole entire way, my dad was pulling my chain, right, saying that we're going to have the houses in Texas are on stilts, right?
Well, they are in some places.
Right, in the desert,
and in the swamps.
and in swamps,
Yeah.
right? So I had this mental picture of where I was going to live, and then when we got to Texas and we came to the city we were going to be living, he pulled up in front of this shack, said, "We're here." I'm like, "Oh no!" I mean, what do you say? You're 9, you're like, "I can't live there." But it was pretty terrible. But yeah, he was just joking.
He was joking.
He was joking.
Oh,
He was
okay.
joking. Yeah. Again, he's always he had fun with it the entire drive
Oh.
down. So
That is hilarious. Well, it sounds like your dad then also had a good sense of humor. Didn't take things too seriously then.
Oh yeah, but he could take a joke pretty far, apparently, right?
That's the only way to take a joke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did he transfer job? Did he continue with the roofing thing here?
He did.
Or-
When he came here, again, with a trade, it's amazing because you can just pick up and relocate. So while he was looking and doing other jobs, he always had roofing to fall back on, right?
Yeah.
So no matter what.
Which is a well-paying job. It's just
It
it's
is.
just hard.
It's
It's
hard.
really hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So throughout my early childhood, he was in and out of roofing, worked for a lot of roofing companies. Eventually was actually working for the Roofers Union.
Oh, okay.
Was president of local Roofers Union. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of hours again still.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And at any of that time, did your mom ever have to take on a job to help with the bills and everything like that?
But absolutely. In fact, when we moved down here, she got a job. So not only did I move 1,200 miles,
Right.
but then my stay-at-home mom was not a stay-at-home mom anymore.
Oh
So-
dear, how did that affect your diet?
Oh, man, terrible. I was already the chubby kid, and that did not help me at all, right? So there was nobody there to say you need to stay out of the refrigerator.
Yeah, but that's what's I think. Let me just check and make sure that this is oh, good, because I had it cut off on me one time, and now I'm paranoid about it. That's what's so important. The people that I've spoke to so far, whose parents have been able to, work things out and stay together and manage, a relationship with kids and with the stresses and pressures of life and the ups and downs. It seems consistent that the people I've interviewed so far whose parents are still together seem to have had a little, because their parents got along well. Not two parents who are at each other's throats all the time,
Right.
of course. But, it seems that balance really assisted them later in life. Do you think that that's been a positive for you?
Oh, absolutely. The funny thing is, how do you live up to that, right? As an adult, and you're growing up with a divorce rate that is basically you have a 50-50 chance, right?
I know.
You
Well,
don't know.
I'm part of
So-
the lower 50.
Right. Well,
And so were my parents.
Well, so yeah, funny story. I am kind of too.
Yeah.
So the wife and I split up, got divorced, but now we're back together.
Well, that's beautiful.
So it's-
That's how me and my ex actually went on and off. I mean, now we just co-parent really well, and we just try and stay on even ground with each other all the time, and it's worked out. But that's amazing too. What was it that brought you back together?
Really, when we split apart, there was just a lot of things going on. Like I said, I had been the absent dad, always at work.
Right.
Drives a huge wedge in a relationship, right? But again, from my standpoint, I thought that's what a guy is supposed to do.
Yeah, because of
Right.
your experience. Yeah.
My experience, and so that's what I thought I was doing the right thing. Now whenever I encounter somebody that is living to work,
Uh-huh.
I try to coach them to work to live
Yeah.
instead. Make time for your family is definitely very important. It really caught me off guard, knowing the fact that we were splitting up. But we split up, got back together, split up, got back together. At the same time, there's during all that time, and it was a tumultuous time, ended up doing things and that people shouldn't do.
Right.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah, sure.
Impacts your family, impacts your kids.
Absolutely.
Impacts your ability to work.
I've been there.
Losing jobs, getting
Yeah.
jobs, right?
I've been there.
Put my kids through quite a bit.
Yeah.
They are pretty resilient, but
Yeah, kids are resilient, but I definitely know that it's I mean from my own personal experience, it's some of those moments can have a little bit longer of a hangover effect, in weird times. Like I started having kind of reverberative effects of not growing up with a really strong father figure when I was in my 20s, way more so than I had in my teens, than when I look back on it. But that being said, have you made adjustments as far as work and all that? Have you made adjustments for yourself to put family first more and all
absolutely, right? So, after we split up, kind of hit rock bottom at a certain point, like most people do.
that?
Turned to my faith, obviously.
Yeah.
And I developed a plan, and I was like, well, definitely have to change. Can't go on doing this. And had heard somebody wise once said that it takes 5 years to change a man.
Right.
So I've been looking at it at that perspective. Here's where I want to be 5 years from now. Couldn't have done it without family. Couldn't have done it without mom and dad, even at that late stage in life. So definitely very blessed to have parents like that.
Yes,
able to
absolutely,
help out.
absolutely. And one thing I have been wanting to address on some of these interviews, I just haven't really gotten around to it, is is the spiritual side of life too, without getting religious on it, and unless anybody wants to. It's the but the because I've always felt that I've been on a spiritual journey since I was even a teenager, and it's been an ebb and flow and an up and down and just an in and out of all kinds of, you know, corrective measures, corrective actions, corrective thinking. You know, for you, does the spiritual journey, what does it do for you?
You know, for me, it used to be just kind of on the fringe, but now I make it a focus of my life, right?
Yeah.
So since I've actually made my spiritual journey my focus, everything else kind of fell in line, which is interesting. You never would have guessed that, you know, before when the family was together. You know, we went to church because we wanted to go to church, but I remember just, you know, everybody getting everybody ready, getting into church. It felt like such a task.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I had raised my kids more in the church. You know, because now I'm at that point in my life where I'm in the church. You know, my wife is going to be in the church. You know, the one thing this pandemic has done is it's a captive audience. So when I'm sitting there watching services on Sunday,
Sure.
family's there too.
Yeah.
Right. So good and bad.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they've expressed interest in coming to church, which is something I've been praying for a long time. So very, very grateful.
And it's beautiful also that you've been, that it sounds to me like you haven't been dogmatic about it or anything like that, or, you know, just because you found this new spiritual awakening within yourself that you can rely on and lean on. It doesn't mean that has to be forced onto other people.
That's it.
You know?
I mean, to me, it's the way I think you bring people around to it is not by being dogmatic, right? You basically do it by example.
Yeah.
Look what this has done for me. Don't you want this for yourself too? Right?
Yes, exactly. And I was, it made me think when you were saying that the you know, even if they're, I put my foot back in the ants. Even if there's a lack of interest at this point in time, you know, like you said, if you really commit yourself to this spiritual way of life, to this really, you know, with an established level of personal ethics that is even above and beyond what the morals of the environment are that we're in, which is not so moral.
Right.
So, you know, because the personal ethics is where it comes into play for me, is riding that fine line of not allowing, you know, more of an amoral kind of environment to affect my own choices, which I used to all the time growing up in Hollywood and everything.
Of course.
It was just, I mean, the most
there.
licentious environment imaginable, you know.
Not good when you're that young. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But again, it was my, you know, because I did have a spiritual quest, it really helped to pull me off of that track and then get me onto something that was deeper, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, what was the when you came out of high school, and what was it that you were trying to do in life? What did you see as the goal for yourself?
That's a good question. So again, as a kid and not having any direction and anyone to mentor me, or these are the important things to do for you at this stage in your life, my idea was, well, I'm just going to go pick and do something where I can make a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Going to make the money, and everything else will fall in line. So I set about to do that. I kind of floundered for a couple years. You know, I'll be honest with you, I had this vision that I was going to go into college and come out the other side an electrical engineer. Ran into chemistry, failed that twice. Didn't learn the first time. Thought, well, you know, maybe I just need to take a break. Did what most people do, switched their majors. You know, decided, hey, I want to be a cop.
Yeah.
Which was kind of an interesting choice.
Yeah.
In the middle of going to school for all that, I had an opportunity to go work for as a vendor for Microsoft, and that kind of took off on its own, right?
Right.
So that led me down a path where I was able to, without a college degree, get a fantastic job and made a lot of money, right?
Wow.
And I thought, wow, here I have all this money, right? And things should be falling into line, but they weren't, right? Because not at home.
Not at home, exactly. I'm just going to take one more peek, because I think what stopped it last time was it overheated because it was in the sun. But it's pretty cool out today here. It's quite nice. So, yeah, I totally understand that, because that really, you know, had a similar effect with me, because it was always like, well, if I don't do this next job, if I don't keep, you know, the train on the tracks, everything's going to fall apart. So it is a difficult balancing act. Are you still in the same kind of business that you were in, or did you completely switch gears when you?
Completely switched gears. So I was in IT for many years. You know, and IT work is basically can go from either you have a long-term job or you go from contract to contract. Did the contract to contract, but again, being a tumultuous time, dealing with family issues, you know, I really wasn't able to focus on work. So then, of course, when we split up, hit rock bottom, you know, at one point, and we were actually together, I actually went to work for my dad, which I highly recommend that if you have a dad, that you work for your dad for a while, because you will learn some things.
Yeah, sure.
So I felt like,
especially if you don't do it with a chip on your shoulder.
right, right. So here I am. I'm like, man, I'm learning some life lessons here, right? Some hard life lessons, and not getting paid very well to do it. just scraping by, right?
Those are the best life. I did when I was doing the construction, all of that, and I was just barely skimming all the bills and keeping everything together until the next autograph signing or the next acting job. You know, those leanest moments, you know, when I was looking at the cabinet going, you know, I'm just going to stick with the beans and bread today, you know what I mean,
right.
to make sure that the ex and kid have, you know, steak and gravy, you know. So it is important to put family first to a certain degree, and I think you're right. I think that sometimes the idea that working too hard or making all the money, you know, that we think is going to make life easier, downscaling and creating a more manageable life, you know, without all of the fluff on it, creates more time for the family, which in this day and age is really lacking.
Oh, absolutely. You know? Right, absolutely. So, you know, I run across it, you know, a lot this day and age too, where you have people that actually split up, and again, they focus on getting revenge on each other more than anything. You mentioned you co-parent really well. You know, for a lot of folks, what I see them doing is they split up, and then one person wants that revenge on the other person, and the kids always get caught in the middle, right? So it's
always
terrible.
Yeah, they always do, and that is really tough. And I think that's where the kind of the spiritual side really, for me, always needs to come in, because when times get tumultuous, you know, the emotional kind of ebb and flow becomes really tumultuous too. And without for me, without a spiritual anchor in that storm, I can easily be blown way off course, and my decision making can become wholly reactive. Versus, like you said, putting a 5-year long-term plan together that if you're sticking to, it doesn't matter what happens in between. You know, your anchor point is 5 years down the road, and you're going to get there no matter what.
That's it.
So this 5-year plan, though, what kind of, without, you don't have to go into too much detail on it if you don't want to or whatever, but what was the basic kind of structure of it, and what inspired you to create this 5-year plan for yourself?
I can't remember where I had actually heard about this 5-year plan, or that it actually took 5 years to change a man. I had always thought, you know, maybe I can make some changes and I'm instantly going to get back to where I was, right? I've learned my lessons, now I want that money to come back. Well, you know, the money didn't really, well, it matters, but it didn't really matter. I was chasing the wrong thing, right? You know, during this tumultuous time also, you know, I wasn't actually making the best parenting decisions, right? A lot of times I realized that, you know, I was making it about me.
Right.
I wasn't making it about the family. You know, I can't speak for my wife when what was going on in her mind, but you know, I think in a lot of times we speak about this, we agree that we weren't you know, actually focused on the right things at that time.
Yeah.
Right? So you know, it all started with, you know, hey, if I got to start over, I'm going to start over. And again, luckily, a lot of people don't have that benefit that you know, have some tough love from parents that say, hey, you know what? Why don't you move to East Texas? That's how I ended up here.
Right.
Because I was in Dallas-Fort Worth. So moved to East Texas. There's some jobs out here. And I always tell the story. I ended up at the company I'm at now. I won't mention any names.
Sure.
But ended up at the company I'm at now. And I remember sitting there thinking, I don't want this job. Starting out entry level.
Yeah.
But you know, I took it anyway. And again, I'm focused on the right things, right? Focused on my plan, focused on my kids, focused on family, focused on just, you know, working to live rather than living to work.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's actually, everything just kind of fell in line.
Yeah.
Eventually did make it back to church. Wasn't a regular church-going member during all this, but I still had my faith, right? And you know, finally, at the almost 5 years exactly, right in that realm, I finally, you know, went through the doors of the church.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that said, you know, in whatever kind of general way or complex way you want to explain it, you know, what is faith to you? You know, what is it to having faith to you? What is that? What does that mean?
Wow, that's a heck of a question. You know, faith to me, I can't even explain it. You know, it's my compass, it's my guide. You know, it's peace. Like I'm at peace in knowing that you know, I feel good about myself. The only time I actually, you know, worry about family members.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from the aspect of I guess you could say being saved. You know, I worry about others' salvation, not so much my own. So that's my focus, you know, right now. But you know, all I can say is, you know, God's been good to me.
Yeah, and that's beautiful too, actually, because what I got from that short, very descriptive answer is it's a putting oneself aside and allowing, you know, a higher spiritual kind of whatever anybody wants to call that, whether they want to call it God or the Tao or whatever other names you want to give it, you know, it's allowing that to be a guiding light for action rather than being more ego driven or personality driven or personal desire driven answers to the problems that life presents, because sometimes the best action to take is no action at all.
That's it. Right? Absolutely.
Now, that being said, because it's really rich. Well, let's ask this: in the job that you're doing, because it's in IT, you know, were you able to avoid the pitfalls of the past 6 months shutdown, or did it have an effect financially? Or?
Here's the thing. So I actually, when I moved to East Texas, I couldn't find any work in IT.
Oh.
Right? So I kind of started off in a call center, which has kind of come full circle to where I ended up right after college. So I just stayed in the call center world, right? Keep my head down, just do my work, you know, focus on my family, and, you know, things just kind of, you know, fell in line. It's hard to describe, you know, just made sure I was focused on the right things.
And then you ended up coming back full circle with the same company doing what it is that you actually really know how to do and are trained to do.
And well, here's the interesting thing. So before, I had always kind of gravitated toward leadership positions, but I wouldn't say I was a good leader.
Right.
But having gone through what I went through and having worked, you know, for my dad as an example, I mean, I truly understood what leadership was.
Yeah.
Right? And that entire experience, you know, made me what I am today as far as a leader of other people and leader for my family.
And that being said, to get to a great, I think this is a perfect time for the wrap up question of that being said, what kind of life advice or directional advice would you give anybody who happens to be watching this that might be in some kind of up and down or ebb and flow or something in their own life, or
right?
You know,
So
something they could chew on.
You know, as a society right now, I think we are focused on so many different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really think for the past 20 years, people have been telling us, you know, just how terrible we are as a race, a human race, just how terrible the planet Earth is, and things that we're doing that are bad. And that's really been prevalent more than now that there's social media, more than ever.
Absolutely.
Right? So I would say people have a tendency to focus on that stuff every day. And what I have to say is, in 100 years, we're all going to be dead.
Right.
Right? So what is going to be your legacy? Is it going to be, you know, your children? Right? So that's where you need to put your effort. Like, if you want to make a difference for your family in the future, you have to put your effort into your children.
That's fantastic. I love that. That's beautiful. Man, thank you so much.
That's it, man.
This is so cool. And thank you so much for stopping by here, the Red Baroness.
Red Baroness.
Yes, she's
Very cool.
she's been a good baby. We got a pirate flag that we're going to get put on her eventually
right.
here, so we can really roll out down the road. People will know we're coming from a mile away.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And that also said, man, you know, I just really want to say, God bless you, God bless your family, and keep keep fighting the good fight and doing it the exact way you're doing it.
Oh man, appreciate
Love
it,
you, brother.
Love you too.
Yeah, and Love America tour.
Oh man, appreciate
Love
it.
you, brother.
Love you too.
Yeah, Love America tour.